Read from on all of this now. Fox News senior strategic analyst and former vice chief of staff of the Army, retired four-star General Jack Keane. Really looking forward to talking to you about this, General Keane, as we try to learn more about the situation and try to confirm whether or not this actually happened. First, your reaction to the reports that these Russian missiles landed in Poland and killed 2 people there. What do you know, sir?
Yeah, well, certainly the loss of 2 lives, and likely very unnecessary, that's a tragedy for those families involved, for sure. But, I mean, on the surface of this is not a military target in the area. This is 1 missile or 2 at most, and it appears that it's likely either an errant missile, because the Russians were firing a fuselage of missiles today, in response to Kherson falling and the celebration that took place yesterday by President Zelensky. Or it could be the Ukrainians also hit a missile and deflected it partially, but didn't destroy it, and it found itself into Poland. But it does point up the danger that's involved here with the Russians firing so close to the Polish border. I think what we need to get here, Poland is meeting on this, and they'll likely have some kind of a press conference. Well, they'll be able to put together the facts on it. But I also think that NATO should play a role here. Let's make the assumption that it is an errant missile and there was no intent here on the part of the Russians. But the recklessness of firing close to the border is an issue. And I think it's a good time for NATO, one, to point that out to the Russians. Poland should do it as well. And also remind them that NATO will respond if they're intentionally attacking a NATO country. And this is an appropriate time to issue, that kind of warning again to Russia. And look what we don't talk about regularly is how many missiles the Russians misfire every single day that don't hit their targets. And it just points up the kind of incompetence of their military, not just their ground forces, who have been struggling since the very beginning of the war, but even their missile forces, Sandra, have serious problems.
Just want to make sure I get this news in here. It's just hitting the top of the wires right now that the White House National Security Advisor Sullivan spoke with our Polish counterpart after the reports of these missiles landing in Poland, and that is about all we know right now, that he has spoken with our Polish counterpart. The Polish press conference that was just held, where they did take some question, the spokesperson Mueller there said that they're verifying the need to activate NATO Article 4 upon further consultation, and that we are raising readiness of our military units. Does that response sound like the possibilities you just mentioned, that this could have been some sort of missile that just mistakenly landed in Poland by Russia, or that this could have been, as you just detailed, Ukraine deflecting a missile that then went that direction and landed in Poland? Would that still be the response from Poland, General?
Well, I think they just don't know, and they're trying to ascertain that and taking the precautionary measures that they should be taking. That's the way I interpret that. It'll take some while to get all the facts together, and likely the Ukrainians and the United States will be able to shed some light on this, given some of the systems that we have that are taking and watching what Russia is doing on a daily basis. But it may take some time, to put that story together and put the facts together. Obviously, Poland has to demonstrate concern about this. I mean, they have had 2 of their citizens killed here, and they're not at war with Russia. And certainly that kind of resolve and determination you would expect from that country. And they certainly want to make certain that no more of their citizens are killed. So yeah, these kind of precautionary moves that they're making make a lot of sense to me.
General, really good to get your reaction on that. The EU saying they are alarmed by the reports of this explosion in Poland. General Keane, great to get your reaction to that and your analysis. Thank you very much, sir, and good to see you.
Yeah, great talking to you, Sandra, as always. Thank you.
All right, we will catch up again soon.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.